Dr. Miller, PhD, always doubled up on the credentials to cover up my insecurities. Okay, let's get into this study. Before I do, just a reminder, subscribe to my channel. Remember, chasing the quest for 1,000. Remember, we are in it together. We are together. We're doing this together. Okay, so, like this video. You're more than welcome to check it out first. And then smack the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. Share the videos, too. I haven't realized, you can share them on Facebook or somebody's Facebook. Share them whatever you think is appropriate. Okay. An older study here, a study that confirms something you probably have all suspected, already know, but I think these studies are still interesting then when you have some empirical evidence to support what's assumed or maybe experienced. All right. This is from a study from 2006, and it's from the Journal of Physiology and Behavior, and it's called Food Selection Changes Under Stress by Zellner et al. And so, have you ever experienced eating bad food when you are stressed? Maybe some of you could say no, and that's part of this, I think, was interesting study as well. And some of you may say, yeah, I go crazy when I'm stressed, right? Pantry raid is incoming when stress becomes high. So this was actually two smaller studies. The first one was just the researchers recruited 34 undergrad female students, mean age was 22 years old. And so part of this research is that women tend to stress eat more than men. Okay. And again, having worked with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men and women working on diet, this is more of a pattern in women than I've seen. And, if you're a woman, you know that's true. If you're a man that's been around a woman, you probably know that's true to some degree. And it doesn't mean all women. I'm not trying to say overgeneralize here. But it tends to, the research literature, this isn't just my opinion, the research literature supports that women, and we'll see this in the other half of this, even this study, tend to stress eat more than men do. So it's like, well, what do you do about it? That obviously is a follow-up to these studies, but it's still interesting to see, this actual is supported. Okay, so what was the study? 22, mean age of these were university students, female students, mean age was 22 years old, had an ethnic breakdown that was, I would say, mirrors the population of the United States for the most part in terms of 60% white, 18% Hispanic, maybe that's a little bit lower, 11% African American, and 6% Asian. Again, somewhat mirrors the population. Let me qualify that a little bit. And so this was I thought it was really interesting what they did, the researchers. So they they invited these individuals to solve these anagrams, and one set of anagrams was solvable and the other one wasn't. And the participants didn't know this. And so they were summoned to, there were 17 in both groups, by the way, 17 young women, college-age students. And so they were summoned to this area where they would take these anagrams, and they had put 4 bowls of different foods, and they had told the participants that they were leftovers. I think they said their snacks were a thank you for their participation. Excuse me, they were a thank you for their participation, and were left over from a psychology club meeting. There we go. I knew there's a leftover action there somewhere. I can remember. And so they had these 4 bowls, and one of the bowls had peanuts in it, which I thought was interesting. Not worried about peanut allergies apparently. One had potato chips, one had grapes, and one had M&Ms. So you had savory and sweet represented, right? The peanuts and the potato chips were more savory, salty, right? And grapes and the M&Ms were more sweet. And the idea is that you have 2 healthy choices, the peanuts and the grapes, and 2 more unhealthy, more processed, right, foods with the potato chips and M&Ms. And so these 2 groups, again, one could solve the anagrams and one could not. And so the ones that could not, obviously, that should increase the amount of stress that they have during this particular experiment. And so they weighed the bowls of each one of these food selections and then weighed them after. So weighed them before the individual came in, then weighed them after, see how much they consumed. And so the results of the study were that the peanuts and the potato chips between the 2 groups really wasn't even just eyeballing here is not a big difference. Not a significant difference, certainly. The grapes group, though, and the M&Ms, you can imagine that there was quite a big variability in the grapes group. Maybe people just don't like grapes, but the no stress group ate significantly more grapes than the stress group. And the stress group ate significantly more M&Ms than did the not stress group. So the takeaway from this is that the savory group did not, it seemed like savory wasn't satisfying. Okay. Sweet was satisfying. Okay. Sweet was satisfying both stressed and non-stressed. And then when stressed, the shift occurred from grapes to the M&Ms. Okay. Again, this is, chocolate has been recognized as one of those foods that, and the authors talk about this as a comfort food. And that was the second half of the study, is they gave individuals a survey then to take about why, what their eating behaviors, do they stress eat and so forth. But I thought that was really interesting, this first part of the study, that, again, you can see this. Again, I'll just rehash the stats here and make sure. There was no significant difference between the groups of either the peanuts or the potato chips. The no stress group ate more grapes than did the stress group. And on the other hand, the stress group ate more M&Ms than did the non-stress group. Yeah, these were all significant, statistically significant. And if you just look at the figure there, so if I just thought it was interesting to look at the variability on the grapes. Huge standard error, or standard deviation, not standard error, standard deviation. The mean was maybe like 16 grams, where the standard deviation extended all up to 44 grams. So somebody, there might be some people that really like grapes, and the M&Ms, the mean was 5 grams consumed, and that extended all the way up to about 15 grams. So there's something maybe else going on there that would be really interesting, or maybe there's even within the spectrum of stressed versus non-stressed eaters, there's a spectrum as well, which was not be surprising. In the second study, this was about a survey that was taken, the Eating When Stressed questionnaire, and the participants were opened up to males as well. So they ended up with 128 females and 41 males, again, from a university in New Jersey. Mean age was 24 years old. There's some demographic details. I'm like, the data wasn't reported perfectly. I don't know if this was a student project or a master's thesis, but it's still interesting. And so the whole point of this, though, the questionnaire really was this idea of restraint. So, people are eating food that are not eating food. People eat food they know they're not supposed to eat and are bad for weight control, etc. When they're stressed. And so this study was more, again, just a survey. So you can imagine it's more about finding out the percentage of people that are doing X, Y, and Z or not doing X, Y, and Z. So, for instance, 71% of the stress overeaters, 75% of males, 43% of males had restraint scores, which would classify them as restrained, but only 35% of 35% of the stress undereaters, and those indicating no change in amount eaten when stressed, 41% females, 20% males, had restraint scores high enough to be classified as restrained. So in other words, restrained eaters are usually people are stress overeaters, right? So this is not a surprise, but 71% of the stress overeaters, right, they are restraining themselves otherwise. So when stress seems to occur, that's when the barrier drops, is the point. And they become unrestrained, if you will. Okay. Chocolate was the most commonly reported sweet eaten when stressed. Let's see. 59% of women reported eating sweets when stressed, specified chocolate. Of the specified chocolate, 70% said that is a food they normally avoided, as did one male. So 70%, again, mostly women that are consuming chocolate when stressed, 70% said they restrained themselves otherwise. But when they got stressed, they ate chocolate. Okay? Again, this is not a shocker. And again, having worked with many women as well, the monthly cycle can also be one of those monthly events that tends to increase the craving for something sweet. And that's why when I work with individuals that have difficulty during the monthly cycle, during the menstrual cycle, during menses, so that week or so, or depending on the woman, that lead up and the start of the cycle, I'll do like a chocolate allotment, right? It's better to give in a little bit than, right, try to restrain, and then the barrier breaks. And then say, I'm just going to go crazy. Okay, it'd be better to say, look, I'm gonna ration myself maybe a dark chocolate bar per day, even if it's 150 calories of dark chocolate. It might not be a whole bar, but it could be a significant amount of a bar. It'd be better to do that than try to restrain to the point where the stress builds. Right. So that's an example, though. Maybe more physiological stress too, but the same with psychological stress is you could recognize, look, I'm under stress right now. I'm going to probably overeat. What if I gave myself a ration, or I provided foods that I could go crazy on? Like, it'd be better to eat cashews, salty cashews and peanuts. You're like, well, I want something sweet. Okay, get some fruit. Okay, even if I'll be honest with you, even if it was dried fruit, which is concentrated, a lot of times the fiber is still part of that, and so it's going to fill you up faster. If anything, it'll give you diarrhea, so you quit eating. Right? Vegetables, lose your marbles. Right? Get some the sweeter ones too. If you want peas and carrots, then do it. Right? Better to do that than try to remain restrained. If you know you're a stress eater, okay, you can try to willpower it out, but I'm going to probably guess at some point you're going to break. Okay, and so this is where I think this information is useful to say, if you're a restrained eater typically and stress breaks that restraint, I'm not saying give in completely, I'm saying plan ahead, right? And give in to some of that stress eating, just do it with healthier foods. That's part of what I call the balance, right? And when we talk about diet, is if you want to have a long, realistic diet, not some fad diet, then you got to find ways to deal with your personality. And I'm the same way. I tend to be a stress eater when I get tired too, and so I eat a lot of cashews, and they have a lot of calories, but they will fill me up faster. They will satisfy quicker, and the caloric density, even though they're cashews and they still have a lot of calories, it's not the same if I was to go in there and eat a bunch of cookies or something. Okay, that has there's nothing positive about those cookies other than, well, I'll talk about it in a second when these researchers cite another study that they make you happy. Okay. So this study goes on a little bit more about these are headers: reasons for eating avoided foods when stressed, reasons for food avoidance. But I think you kind of get the idea. I did highlight a couple other things. Restrained eaters have been found to exhibit disinhibition. This is in the discussion section. And they summarized the research and then cited another study that supports this point. Restrained eaters have been found to exhibit disinhibition of their diet in certain situations to eat foods they normally avoid. So just what I said, right? Just so you don't think I'm making crap up. This was another study that was cited as well. And 22 is this is by Heatherton. The measurement of restraint, the analysis of conceptual and psychometric issues. Okay. This is a Journal of Abnormal Psychology in 1988, older study. And the last point out here is this was also a citation of another study that they were making a point, but I thought it was interesting. I might even go pull this study, take a look at it. But this study by Polivi, and it was effects of anxiety on eating. Does palatability moderate distress-induced overeating in dieters? Another Journal of Normal Psychology, Journal of Normal Psychology, 1994. But this is, I'm going to read what the authors wrote here. So, in this study by Polivi, they let individuals eat cookies when they were had signs of anxiety, and so individuals went to cookies to comfort themselves. And what happened? Well, so this is what they said. In fact, Polivi did find that people who ate cookies when stressed reported feeling happier. Okay, that's not the same as producing anxiety. Happier when eating them. Eating cookies did not, however, decrease their anxiety. Being stressed, happy, and anxious might be better than just being stressed and anxious. Okay, so the cookies didn't fix anything. is the bottom line. They might make you happy, but they didn't fix anything. So I'll go back to what I said just a little bit ago. Is if the desire is I'm stressed and my restrictive eating is down, I'm my ability to resist those foods is down, those foods I know I shouldn't eat, then go towards foods that can still make you happy but are healthier. Okay, like in this case it was cookies. Well, even dark chocolate, and dark chocolate is not a health food, by the way, but it would be better to go there, right, than cookies. And so if I could kind of summarize this, things aren't always a binary thing. Like, it's not always I go crazy or I don't go crazy. It could be, right, a sliding scale. Okay, I'm going to go a little crazy here. Okay, this is a hard day at work. School is tough. I'm going through a sticky situation or whatever, and I'm stressed. Okay, and I know I'm a stress eater. I shouldn't be. I feel guilty. Right? No, don't do that. Okay. Instead, say, okay, well, what are some better food choices I can make? I know I'm probably going to stress eat a little bit, eat my emotions, whatever it is here, and that's not good. And you can work on that and trying to find, I encourage individuals to find other hobbies to eat that stress, right? Distract yourself, even if it's not physically active. Go do a hobby you really enjoy that can reduce stress. Okay, but let's just say you're going to stress eat anyway. Like, that's going to happen. Well, again, make better choices, and instead of eating the whole whatever, even if you stop short by 10%, or you plan ahead and I'm going to eat the whole container. Well, get a container of something that's smaller. So you pound it and you're done with it. So you ate the whole container. Maybe that is makes you happy in itself. Okay. You ate ice cream, but you didn't eat a gallon of it. You ate a pint of it, right? I mean, those are the small adjustments you can make. I'm all about, and I'm going to write another diet. I think I'm going to write a diet book, because I see a lot of this is understanding not just macros and numbers, which are valuable to track, but that's not for everybody necessarily. I would say it's not for everybody, period. Even for those that do track macros, there's a time when you have to learn how to manage what you eat and understand who you are, okay, and make appropriate adjustments. You like the holidays and you like to go hard in the holidays. I mean, there's some good cookies. There's like some, okay. Well, can you have some, compensation during the day where you don't eat as much during? Can you increase your physical activity during that time? Maybe it's going to be a rough few days, okay? Know that bloat's going to be, but after those that you're going to get back on it. And it's not a diet in the sense that I'm dieting now. It's just like I'm just going back to what I usually eat, and that's going to clear the bloat. It's going to take a few days. But you don't just give up and say, well, screw it, I gained 5 pounds. I'm never going to get this weight off. It's holiday bloat. It's never coming off. Well, if you do that, then it probably will stick around, right? That's not a mindset for long-term success. You're going to have times when you weigh more. You're going to have times when you stress eat. What are you going to do about it, right? And the whole, again, binary, dichotomous type of approach is I'm just not going to do it. It probably isn't always going to work. It could be, and there's time, I'm not saying there shouldn't be some restraint, but what I am saying is you could not give in to those things, but modify the kind of food you're eating, and therein increase the kind of quality of food you're eating and improve health over time, because yes, you may still have these behaviors, but the food you eat is better. And you find the bloat is either negligible or not at all, or negligible or very much reduced compared to what it would have. I mean, eat a bag of a couple sleeves of, Oreos compared to eating a couple apples. That's very different and very different experience. Okay. So, just some things to think about. I hope you find this journal club interesting, and you can see it's more than just some like, oh, cool facts, bro. And I already knew these things. Well, it helps us to think clearly now about what do we do, right? It's one thing to recognize the cool facts, bro, but what do we do with them? Hopefully, you've seen some value in this little study. And as always, I'll leave the link in this video description if you want to take a look yourself. All right, see you in the next one.